Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Martha Ayala, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. As a reminder, I do every video in English and Spanish, and the degree theory is based on modern Western astrology using the Placidus house system. In today's video, I want to talk to you about the eclipse that we're going to have on September 7th. It's a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces at 15 degrees, which is the degree of Gemini. Now, let me bring up the chart so that we can discuss the charts. So as you all know, I go on astro-seek.com. I pull down this drop-down menu, and this is where solar and lunar eclipses, you have full moons and new moons. You have all kinds of information about the moon. So I go on September 7th. Here you go. It's a lunar eclipse at Pisces, in Pisces, at 15 degrees, 24 minutes. And if you click here, then for the eclipse chart, you get this one. Voila, the eclipse chart. So for those of you who, I always like to explain what an eclipse is, right? It's a full moon lunar eclipse because the moon is opposite the sun. So this is a full moon lunar eclipse. Now, it is conjunct the lunar nodes. So this would make it a karmic eclipse. Not every eclipse is conjunct the lunar nodes. I don't know if you guys know that, but in case you didn't, you know now. Now, this eclipse is also conjunct Mercury, and it's at the degree of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So there's some kind of news that's going to be coming, right? So the conjunction is to Mercury. We have Mars that is squaring Jupiter. You know, this could be positive in a way that you're taking a lot of action, right? On a mundane level, this could be not so great because it's at the degree of Scorpio. And Mars is military action, so there could be a lot of military action, right? But let's just hope that it's a lot of action that's taken. So anyway, Jupiter is sextiling the sun and sextiling Mercury, and Jupiter is trining the moon. Now we have these aspects here, which are going to be with us for a long time. We have Pluto trining Uranus at 1 degree, and this is 1 degree, 39 minutes. Uranus is at 1 degree, 27 minutes. So this is a very, I mean, it's almost an exact trine. We have Pluto sextiling Saturn and sextiling Neptune, and we have Uranus sextiling Saturn and Neptune. And of course, these two are conjunct. It's an out of sign conjunction, but they are conjunct. So let's bring it down to, what's going to happen or what I think is going to happen. So like I said, these are karmic. This is a karmic eclipse because they are conjunct the nodes. So especially for people who were born with Saturn in either Virgo or Pisces, you need to be very careful because your Saturn is there. This eclipse is happening. And I'm talking about people with Saturn between 12 and 18 degrees, plus or minus 3 degrees. If you want to make it a little bit wider, use 5 degrees, but I like to keep it, close. So for those people with Saturn natally, when I mean, your natal chart, Saturn is in Virgo or Saturn is in Pisces, these eclipses can bring karmic events, karmic meetings, karmic endings. So watch the dates, plus or minus, September 7th, plus or minus a month. So we're talking from August 7th to October 7th. That's when the eclipse delivers the bulk of the news during those 3 months, a month before or a month after the eclipse. Now, the eclipse can deliver news later on, right? Because it opens a window for these things to happen. But since this is a full moon eclipse, it can bring, God forbid, you getting, you get let go of your job, or your boss leaves, or something ends, maybe a relationship ends. All of these situations are fated, so you have no control over the situation, right? What happens with an eclipse is final. There is no going back. Now, on a mundane level, we need to watch China and also Ukraine. These two countries, things are going to heat up. So I wanted to discuss China. This is their birth chart. China is a Libra sun. The moon is in Aquarius and the rising sign is in Aquarius. So remember, Pluto is hovering around here, which is not that great because it's opposing, or will oppose eventually, excuse me, their natal Pluto, but it's at 17 Leo, so we still have time to go. And we have Saturn, which is the concern. Saturn is in Virgo at 13 degrees, which is the degree of Aries. And the eclipse is going to happen somewhere around here. Pisces 15 degrees. So Saturn will be opposing the eclipse. I'm sorry. The eclipse will be opposing their natal Saturn. Now, their Saturn trines Jupiter in Capricorn, which is not the best place, right? But it's at the degree of Capricorn, 22, to kill or be killed. So what this can mean is that with this full moon eclipse, there may be concluding some kind of planning, because Capricorns are planners. They like to plan everything. They're very strategic, right? Seventh house talks about long-term relationships, both in love and business, but it also is open enemies. So, and what I don't like is that China has this Pluto Mars conjunction in the seventh house. So when they go to war, they are ruthless. They won't, take no prisoners type of attitude. So I do think that with this eclipse, the eclipse of September 7th, not exactly on that day, but I do think that they will invade Taiwan, probably sometime in the fall, right? I think this is what's going to happen. God, I hope to God not, because then that would bring us to a full-scale war, none of these proxy wars that we've been having. But I think that China is one to watch during this eclipse season. And then the second one is Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has a horrible birth chart. They could not have picked a worse chart, I don't think. Pluto is in Scorpio at the degree of Scorpio. So Pluto is total destruction, right? And they have the moon in Aquarius at 22 degrees to kill or be killed. And they have Saturn in the first house. So these people, I mean, talk about karmic. Oof. All right, so they have Mars. The concern is this. Mars is in the 8th house in Virgo at 25 degrees, which is the degree of Aries. And so the next eclipse on September 21st is going to happen, I believe it's in Virgo at 28 degrees. So this Mars is going to get activated. So I'm thinking that Ukraine is going to have, God, I mean, again, God forbid, but I'm telling you what I think may happen. They may get like one of these major attacks from Russia, because Russia is also Pisces. So these eclipses are affecting uh, Russia as well. But for, that's a different story. However, the one to watch for this eclipse is going to be China, because I do think that they will invade Taiwan. It's some kind of, either they're culminating their plans, like, they're ending the planning phase of the attack to then attack when the eclipse happens in Virgo, or they're working something behind the scenes. And as you all know, like, the world is upside down. Russia is committing genocide with Ukraine. Israel is doing the same thing with Gaza. There's so many children dying of starvation, and no one is doing anything to stop this. So, we call ourselves humanity. I don't know. Anyhow, I don't see Israel's chart activated for any of these two eclipses. Russia will be activated because they're Pisces. They're ruled by Pisces. So anyway, on a personal note, this lunar eclipse is in the sign of Pisces. So it talks about endings. Oh, let me stop sharing, because we're going to go through the 12 signs, right? Um, so like I was saying, Pisces is the 12th house in oh my God, in a natural natal chart. So how is this going to affect the 12 ascendants? For Aries rising, the eclipse happens in your 12th house. So the 12th house, this is a very karmic eclipse for you. It can bring very difficult situations regarding or surrounding feelings of self-destructive behaviors that you may have, fears of inadequacy, or fears in general. Um, the subconscious you need to watch out for. Maybe try to do some meditation, some yoga, just calm yourself down. On a positive note, maybe you have been undergoing therapy and the therapy is coming to some kind of conclusion, and you've resolved one or more of the subconscious issues that were, plaguing you, bothering you. So the 12th house, an eclipse in the 12th house brings a cycle to a close. So you need to ask yourself, what are you going to leave behind? Are you going to leave behind addictions? Fill in the blanks, right? Sugar, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes. Pisces is cigarettes. Um, Anything self-destructive behaviors. Maybe you need to use this energy on a constructive basis. Whatever is pulling you down, whether it's a person or a behavior, you need to put it behind you. You need to say, enough. I'm going to give myself the time to analyze things, what's bothering me. Am I eating because I'm depressed? Am I drinking because I'm depressed? Things like that. You need to address it. Start, I don't know, walking around the block. It doesn't cost any money, just to use that stress, release it. Meditation, yoga, um, go to the ocean as well, or some water. If you don't live close to the ocean, go to a river. That's Scorpio. But anyway, Cancer's a lake, but try to do something that will relax you. Taurus. Taurus, this eclipse for you is happening in the 11th house. So the 11th house has to do with friends, groups, organizations, social clubs, goals, hopes, wishes. On a positive note, God willing, you can achieve a goal or a dream that you were hoping for and it comes to fruition, right? This eclipse, since it's a Gemini, the degree of Gemini, it's a message that you're going to get. So, um, maybe it's talking about an organization that you belong to and they elect you as president. Or if you're not fitting in with those people anymore, then you decide to leave. 11th house, it can talk about a friend moving away, a friendship that's coming to an end and it ends. Or, you know, it can be that your friend becomes more than a friend and you enter a different stage in a relationship, right? You become boyfriend, girlfriend type of thing. So it could have a positive twist. Um, Gemini. For Gemini, the eclipse happens in your 10th house and it's opposite your 4th house. So Gemini is one of the signs that might get hit hard because it's the angles of the chart, right? First, 7th, 10th, and 4th are the angles of the chart. So this can be rough. This can be a rough eclipse. The 10th house rules career, your standing in society, your parents as well. So, what does this mean? Your boss can quit, they can retire, they can be transferred to another division, another department, or maybe you're the one that gets laid off, or maybe you decide to quit to leave your career because you're retiring, right? It doesn't always have to be negative. Or it could talk about a work project coming to a conclusion. So it depends on how this eclipse aspects your natal chart. With good aspects, you can be recognized for a great job that you did, right? With a square or an opposition, then you can be written up, basically. Conjunction, it depends. It depends, the planets that it's conjunct. If it's Jupiter or Venus, it's a good conjunction for the most part. If it's Saturn or Mars, not so great. If you have teenagers, careful with having arguments with them. Or if you're a teenager, careful with having arguments with your parents. Same thing goes with clashes with your boss or authority figures. Not a good time during this eclipse to put this to the test, right? Just keep it calm. Um, no arguments with anybody in authority. The most difficult part of this eclipse is that if you have a parent whose health is not doing well, somebody with cancer, dementia, like a really bad case of diabetes, and that they're constantly in and out of the hospital, I suggest you call them or visit, because an eclipse in the 10th house can talk about a death of a parent. So, um, you know, I'm sorry to be hopefully that this is not your case, right? So, Cancer. For Cancer rising, this eclipse happens in your 9th house. So this is not a bad place to have an eclipse. The 9th house talks about long distance trips, your spiritual beliefs, higher education, legal matters. Um, so, you could be ending a long distance trip at the time of this eclipse, or maybe a legal case is coming to a conclusion, right? To a close. Some of you can get your legal documents, you become a resident or you become a citizen. On a negative side, which I hope that this is not your case, a lot of times when you have an eclipse in the 9th house, kids drop out of school. They drop out of college, they drop out of the university. My suggestion to you is, as an alternative, take a semester off. A lot of universities have something where you pay a small fee, like $50 or $100, and you're inactive for the semester. And I'm telling you to think about this because decisions that you make on an eclipse are final and you can't go back. So, being inactive for a semester, think things through before you decide to withdraw from the university. All right, Leo. For Leo, this eclipse is happening in your 8th house. So eighth house deals with death, sex, taxes, inheritances, money that comes in one lump sum, joint finances. It talks about alimony, insurance payouts, child support. Um, so definitely you're going to be looking at your investments, and maybe you decide to sell a position that you have in some stock. You move money around, etc., right? It's a great time to do your will, to do a trust, consult a lawyer about estate planning. This doesn't mean that you are going to die, but there will be a death in your surrounding. You're going to hear of somebody passing away. This could also be a time where you get your tax refund, right? An insurance payout, a divorce settlement. In a romantic relationship, this could mean that you take that relationship to the next level and you become intimate with the person, right? So, Virgo. Virgo, this eclipse happens in your seventh house, but it's also squaring your 10th and your fourth because it's on the angles. And like I told Gemini, this is one of the most difficult placements because it's on the angles of your chart. It squares the 10th and it squares the fourth house. So this can mean that there's a divorce, seventh house, or a breakup with a business partner, right? Or a long-term relationship, somebody that you're living with decides to move out. There could be maybe a business deal comes to a conclusion, right? Or maybe the business partner, the business partnership just falls away, right? Because it is a square to the 10th house, you can get fired, you can get laid off, is mostly what happens, or you can decide to quit, right? So, uh, yeah, that's about it. Libra. Libra rising. And mind you, for Virgo, it's only if your degrees are between 12 and 18. You need to be aware. If they start laying off people, you might be on the chopping block. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but those are the things that can happen during this eclipse. Hopefully, it's just that your boss is leaving. Libra, the eclipse happens in your sixth house. So this one comes in with mixed energy in this house because on a positive note, maybe you decide to make healthier choices, diet-wise, exercise-wise, health-wise. It's a great time to quit smoking, drugs, alcohol, sugar, potato chips, processed foods, right? A change in your personal habits for the better. Break a bad habit, basically. And this is the eclipse in this house, in the sixth house, can give you the results that you want because decisions that are made in an eclipse are final. On a not so good note, if you have a pet, because sixth house also rules pets, be careful with them. If they're not, they can run away, they can get lost, or if they are sick and not doing well, then they can pass. This personally has happened to me twice. I lost two dogs 9 years ago, and I understood it was a fated event, but it's still uncomfortable, it still hurts. You don't want to lose your dog. Um, Actually, now I have one that's 14 and a half years old, and he wasn't doing well. So what did I do? I took him to the vet. He has anemia. So I started to give him vitamins. I put him on a special diet. So because I know that's my sixth house. So I know that if I don't take care of things, then he's going to be the next one to go. And he's my favorite. So Scorpio. Scorpio, this eclipse happens in the fifth house for you. So the fifth house talks about romance, creative projects, hobbies, vacations, children. So you may be concluding a vacation because here in the United States, Labor Day is in September. Since it's the romance house, there could be a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, and it will be final because decisions that you make in an eclipse, there's no turning back. On a more positive note, you can finish a creative project you've been working on, or maybe you get some kind of news about your firstborn child, something that needs to be resolved. It will be resolved. Maybe your child is going to the university and you're having issues with um, the dorms, or you're having issues with financial aid or something like that. It will get resolved. You get the news that, hey, everything worked out. This can also mean for Scorpio that you find out that you're pregnant. Especially if this makes good aspects to your chart, to your natal chart, and it's your firstborn, fifth house, you may find out that you're pregnant. So see, the eclipse in this house is not so bad. Sagittarius. For Sag, the eclipse happens in your fourth house. So again, like I told Virgo and Gemini, and I will tell Pisces, um, this is going to be opposing your 10th, squaring your 7th, and squaring your first house. So any eclipse that happens in the angles are difficult. Again, from 12 to 18 degrees, right? So the fourth house rules your parents, your family, the physical structure where you live in, right? And it depends how the eclipse aspects your natal chart. The fourth house is a karmic house, and it's the house of endings. The eighth house describes how you're going to die. The fourth house can be just that. If you have a parent whose health is not doing well, someone who has cancer, dementia, diabetes, that's been in and out of the hospital, that type of situation, I would suggest that you call or visit, because an eclipse can take the parent away, right? The parent can pass. There's going to be some kind of ending, fourth house related. On a positive note, maybe you stopped renting a house or an apartment because you bought your own home, or you bought an apartment, right? Or maybe you've been remodeling your house and then finally the remodel comes to a conclusion, right? That would be the great news. Uh, Capricorn. Capricorn, the eclipse happens in your third house. The third house rules communications, it rules your mind, siblings, extended family like aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews. It rules short courses, learning, studying, short trips. Um, so this can simply mean that you are ending a short trip that you took, or maybe you're ending a course, like you're finishing it up, or you finished your website and it's ready to be published. Um, there's a resolution with one of your siblings or one of those extended family members I just mentioned that now comes to a close. So the eclipse in the third house is, not that bad. Aquarius. Aquarius, this eclipse is happening in your second house. So for Aquarians, Aquarius rising, the second house deals with money, the money that you make from the job that you do. It talks about the things you value, the things we eat also. So this means you're going to be looking at your budget with a fine-tooth comb. You need to save money. You need to follow your budget or tweak it to stay on track. Hopefully this eclipse, maybe you're paying off your mortgage, you're paying off your credit cards, making that last car payment. That is a day to celebrate. You can be ending a certain thing that you eat. Maybe you're giving up sweets, sodas, potato chips, chocolate, candy, um, something that's not that great for your health. You can be also reevaluating the things that you value. I mean, do you really need that 10th designer bag? You have enough Coach and Dooney and Berg and whatever. You don't need a 10th designer bag, right? You can do with 1 through 9. Pisces. Pisces, this eclipse is happening in your first house. So it's opposite your seventh and it squares the 10th and the 4th. So this one's a big one for you. The eclipse falls on your first house, especially if you have a rising from 12 to 18 degrees. You need to be careful with your health. You need to be careful with falls or accidents. For whatever reason, especially on the 5th day after the eclipse, be extra careful, especially if this aspects your natal Mercury or your natal Mars. Be extra careful, slow down, don't be in a rush, because this is when accidents happen, right? Although Pisces are pretty, they're not, they take their time doing things, but I just wanted to mention it anyway. Um, there could be something that you are ending, a behavior, an unrealistic view of life. Pisces tends to wear the pink glasses and doesn't want to see reality for what it is. It's a great time to end a smoking. Pisces rules smoking, alcohol, drugs. Make this eclipse count. Do something favorable for yourself, for your body. First house is your body. So anyway, with this, I conclude this video. I hope that you have found this information helpful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and send this video to somebody else whom they may find it helpful. As always, if you would like a natal chart reading with me, please send me an email to amaastrology@aol.com. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.